welcome again to a new episode of I Am Series podcast. Today, we're going to be focusing on a major and important act that we go through our life, whether we are children, we are grown-ups. We do it all the time, and sometimes we don't even know how to do it. And we're going to be focusing today on forgiveness. And the episode today is I Am Forgiveness. And today I am hosting a very dear person to my heart, a friend whom I haven't met very long time ago, but it's funny when you are connected on a soul level to people, you just feel like you've known them forever, right? Rawan, it's very nice to have you with me today in episode, I don't know which number, of season 2 from I Am Series. Hi.
Hi, Maysoon. Thank you. It's so great to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, and it's been a while we haven't seen each
It
other. So
has
for
been a
me,
while.
it's like two birds with one stone, right?
Absolutely.
So Rawan is actually, she works in the corporate world. However, she has a very interesting personal experience and personal story with self-development, and she's been through her own self-development journey, just like myself. And that's why I have her here with me today. We're going to be talking a lot about how people can go through this journey, what it is that they do, how they can, especially when we're talking about forgiveness, what are the steps that they might have to take through to go from point A to point B, which is unforgiving to forgiving, right? And then what are the different scenarios that people may face to reach a point where they feel that they need to forgive, and who is it that they have to forgive the most? So before we start, I'd like to know a little bit from you about your own journey. Like, how did you move from a place where you felt that maybe you were harsh on others, or maybe you were harsh on yourself, and you needed to get to a point where you wanted to move past that feeling, and to do that, you had to go through the act of forgiving.
Yeah.
So let me know. Tell me.
So let me tell you a little bit about me and my own journey so that people get to know a little bit
Yes.
about why I'm here and how come we're having this conversation.
Definitely.
So I was in the corporate world a long time ago. I was in marketing, and when I had my first child, I had discovered coaching, and I was coaching on the side, and I decided that I want to spend more time with my son, and I want to be able to focus on my passion for coaching. So I left my marketing job at the time, and I started my own coaching practice. And I
Nice.
was on my own, developing myself, working more on understanding coaching, diving deeper into the spiritual side of coaching, if you want.
Yeah.
Learning more about leadership development, working with, at first, entrepreneurs, and then I found my way back to executives, and I started coaching and executives in organizations. And as I was developing myself and working more and more on grounding myself in what I call today my soul's work, doors started opening, and 10 years later, I went into consulting, and I was in consulting for 4 years. And very recently, only 9 months ago, I found my way back into the corporate world, but really doing my soul's mission, which is opening people's hearts.
I love that. Do you feel that when we go through this journey, we actually discover a lot of hidden gems within us?
Absolutely.
What sort of gems did you discover?
I discovered gems that were always there,
Yes.
but I hadn't dug deep enough to see them or understand them. And then I started connecting the dots. Like I realized that people feel I'm very approachable, that they connect to me very easily. But then I remembered that as a child, all my friends used to come to me with their troubles already. That I was the one person in the classroom who was part of different groups of people. who was part of little different groups of friends. And so I think the connection that I have with people and the ease of the connection was already with me as a child. I just only started to know really how to use it consciously as I dove deeper into this role and this journey.
Nice. And remember, I always say our life journey is a journey of remembrance, because when we come, we actually know everything. We just forget by the conditioning that we go through in life, by what we go through as an experience, not just the conditioning, our own experience, you know, the ups and downs, the problems, the goods, the bads, the positives, the negatives.
Absolutely.
So we forget what we actually came to this realm with, you know, our own soul's previous journeys, all the learnings, all the virtues that we've already acquired as a soul from before. They're already here. And as we dig, when we, and I find it very fascinating that especially these days, a lot of people are reaching that point where they realize, oh my God, I want to dig, I want to know, why is this happening? What is it that I have as a learning from all the things that what am I learning here? What am I getting out of all these situations that I put myself into? Because as I always say, and I say it in every single episode, I think, that nobody comes and puts the gun to our head and tells us this is how you should live, right? It's a choice that we make, even though there are a lot of conditions outside of us, there are a lot of circumstances that are not really related to us, but a lot of the times we are so conditioned by society, by our friends, by our peers, by our parents, and by the traditions that this is the way to live. And we blame it on that instead of taking a breath and consciously really thinking about how we want to do things in our life for ourselves.
Yes.
Have you been through this like everyone else, or has it been like a smooth sail?
I've definitely been through it. You know, you get to a point in life where you realize that I am here for a reason. And when you look back at all the mistakes you've made, all the decisions that didn't really feel like decisions at the time, you realize that these were choices I was making that got me to where I am today.
Subconsciously.
Subconsciously.
I like that.
And owning these choices is the first step towards becoming a more aware and a more awake human being.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. This is the first time somebody explains it in such a way that actually makes sense. You know, because a lot of us are very pragmatic in the way that we think, and we want proofs, and we want, but how does this work? Especially when we go into the coaching side of things or into the holistic side of things. We know, because we've been through the experience, and we've been through the learning, and we've been through the digging, and we've done our share of what we are talking about today, the forgiveness. We're going to get back to that. But we've done our share of all of this. For us, I feel it becomes much easier to say, well, you know, you can be positive and you can manifest things in your life. But for the person who's going through a lot of the ups and downs that we've been through already, when we've passed through them, it's always a little bit tricky. So I love how you mentioned that. Now I look at my choices and I see that these are the path that got me here. So kind of your choices, whether you were doing them consciously or subconsciously, it's a different story, but your choices are your lessons. They made you who you are today. And what we're trying to do here is to highlight this for those who haven't been through this yet, and tell them that, you know, you don't have to go through it the hard way, or you don't have to do it the hard way. If you just allow yourself to realize and just look at it from a logical perspective, I don't want to say holistic, and I don't want to say spiritual. I just want to say, look at it from a logical perspective and
Yeah.
think about it from that angle and see really how you, as you, my audience, and anyone, us, even after all the things that we've done and after so much self work, there's always this point where we always want to stop and want to think, how is this helping me?
Yeah.
Where do I want to be? What are the next steps for me to get there?
Yeah.
You know, and how do I want to look at things, and where is it that I can find the things that I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we go back to that part of you taking your choice, making your choices, and then looking back at them, how did that translate when it comes to forgiveness? Who did you have to go, and how did forgiveness help you in
Yeah.
that space?
Yeah. When you look back, whenever I'm working with someone and they come to me and they say, I'm going through something really difficult. And in that moment, it's really hard to see that this is actually a choice I made, and I'm suffering because of a choice I made. Because if we had to choose, we would choose not to suffer.
Correct.
You know?
100%.
Rumi said, the wound is where the light gets in. And I always remind the people that I'm working with who are going through tough times that it is important to go through these tough times, because it is like a rite of passage. You have to feel these feelings in order to get to the other side. And when you get to the other side, you will get it. Right now, can you think for a moment, how is this serving you? How getting to this point has served you?
Yeah.
How this pain that you're going through is serving you? And sometimes it's really a very difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
But when we sit with it, we can get to the point where we understand that this is actually helping me, because a part of me needs to die in order for the new to be born.
Wow, I love that. I love that.
And this death is what requires forgiveness.
Forgiveness of whom? Or
I
sending it
start
to whom?
by forgiving myself.
Because most of the time we feel like we have to be forgiven from others, or we
Yes.
have to give our forgiveness to others. And we always forget that the most important person in any relationship between us and the outer world is actually us.
Us, absolutely.
It's not them, and it's not the outer world or the circumstances. It's really, everything starts from us.
Yes.
Like when we want to forgive someone, or when we want to ask for forgiveness, it's even then we are doing this.
Yes.
It's not something that is being
Yeah.
done to us. So it's always important to remember that when we are on this path, and it's very I love what you said, that a part of you has to die before the new part starts
can-
living.
yeah.
And it's just like life itself, you know, when you go through life. And I always say, imagine life has zero problems. It'll be first of all very boring, right?
Absolutely.
And like living like with no problems, with nothing. And you will learn nothing really if there's nothing happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the way our soul learns. But like you said also, it's important to take this breather and to allow ourselves to feel and to go through the emotion. The first thing that we say to people as coaches is, allow the thought, allow the emotion, allow the feeling, so that you understand where it's coming from.
Yes.
Why is it there? And what is causing it? And when you know the cause, then you can work on the effect and you can work on the solution.
Yeah.
But if we always come up with solutions without knowing the cause is still there, and it's going to always create those problems for us to find new solutions and more solutions. So whether I come and I just, get to a place where I find myself looking for solutions, I have to understand the problem first.
Yeah.
And I have to understand not just the problem, the root of the problem. Because
Yes.
mostly when we go, and I know this from my own self, and I've been through an experience very, not too long ago. I had a falling with my mother, and we weren't talking. And I knew deep down inside that this is not right. This is causing blockages for me, for my life, not for her. And again, when we are in this place, we start seeing things from our own perspective and start from ourselves, because once we do, the others will get affected. Whether we know it or not, it's the case. Their life changes because we are changing our life, and everything is a perspective at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So when I started with that, and I said to myself, you know what? I have to come to peace with this, and I have to give myself my forgiveness for myself first, for her, and I need to ask for her forgiveness, because I don't know what I have done. I might have also caused her pain and caused her hurt.
Absolutely.
And it was this give and take and this two-way street that actually made a lot of sense. And once you go through this process, you feel light. You feel like there was some sort of a burden, and this is why forgiveness is such an important exercise to go through. But what do we need to do in order to reach a place, first of all, to understand if we have to forgive and who we have to forgive? Like, is there a process that people can go through or can, pinpoint in their own lives?
Yeah, I think the process would be very personal, depending on the situation and the person. But I would say just realizing that by not forgiving someone, it's actually a burden that I am carrying. And as you described, it's a blockage in my own life.
Yeah.
And we often don't forgive because we are projecting a part of something we're afraid of onto this relationship and this person. And so the fear is very often the blockage.
Okay.
And it could be a fear of anything. What we project onto this relationship and this other person is actually mirrored back to us. And so this is how the blockage happens.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit more?
So let me give an example. For example, someone does something that hurts me. Okay? They assume that I've done something, and they don't give me the chance to explain. And they decide to stop talking to me.
Okay.
Right? Their assumption of something that I did is probably wrong. And here I have one of two choices. I can either block and completely decide, you know what, they didn't take the time to even talk to me and understand my point of view. I refuse to talk to them. And then I also create a block in the relationship. Or I could step away and say, why is it so important for me that they assumed something wrong? What about this is bothering me? Because they assumed something about me, and then which as a result of which they decided to stop talking to me. And this assumption is bothering me.
Yeah.
It's not the fact really that they stopped talking to me.
Yeah, it's the
fact
assumption.
that they assumed something and they didn't give me the chance to defend myself. Right? There's always a fear of a need not being met. And when I talk about a need not being met in the relationship is, you didn't give me the chance to defend myself. Okay? I'm afraid that I'm losing face with you. Or I'm afraid that I am losing your trust. Right? You assumed something that is wrong. The assumption is, I'm afraid I'm actually portraying something wrong that others are seeing and I'm not seeing. Of course, all of this is not conscious.
Yes, 100%.
But when you bring this to a coaching conversation and there's a good coach sitting with you, dissecting the situation, you will realize that actually your defenses went up because you were afraid in that moment. And they probably stopped talking to you because they're afraid.
Yeah.
And so you start projecting your fears onto each other. And if we allow the fear to lead the conversation, then everything stops. And we will all go and stand behind our big shields. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the word.
And we will all be blocked.
And we will all be blocked.
Yeah.
So realizing that fear has a big role to play in any relationship I'm in. And realizing that fear actually has a big role to play in how I show up in the world.
Yeah, 100%.
You know? And fear comes as a result of my life experiences. I go through an experience that was a bad experience. I'm afraid to go through a similar experience again. And therefore, I start having a reaction every time I'm in a similar situation. Or every time I assume I'm in a similar situation. Because I start perceive. I start seeing the same pattern in different people, even if these people are not doing the same thing.
Yeah, but that seeing or that perception is coming from your fear, basically.
Exactly.
It's not really real. It's a perception.
It's a perception.
Right? So
exactly.
How does forgiveness fit into all of this? Do you forgive yourself from the fear that you have? Like, is that the way to do it? Like, I rid myself and I forgive myself for being afraid, and I just jump into, or I start being compassionate a little bit with my own self.
So the forgiveness is probably looking back. I forgive myself for all the times that I did not know better.
I love that. I forgive myself for all the times that I did not know better.
Exactly.
I love that.
You know, so often, you know, I'm sure people will connect with that as children. You know, so many of us go back and do some inner child work.
Yes.
And no parents are perfect, right? Parents become parents and they don't have a guidebook. They don't have a guidebook, right?
Yeah, they don't.
So they parent us and they learn through parenting us what a parent is like or should be like. And some of us are lucky, we have great parents, and some of us aren't so lucky. And so going back and forgiving our parents for treating us the way they did when we were children, because they didn't know any better.
Yeah. I always say they did the best they could with what they had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is exactly it.
Yeah.
And so starting from there, then looking back at my life and forgiving myself for when I didn't know better. And then looking at the person in front of me who is hurting me, and then having the compassion to say, you don't know better, or they don't know better. And this only
I forgive them
comes,
because they don't know better.
Yes. And this only comes from a place of having gone through the ups and downs in life and really having felt different kinds of pain, that I see that it is the pain they're feeling that is making them react this way with me. The reality is, most of the time, it's not even about me.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it could be only about you. I mean, I have two ways of seeing this, because really when the people that you bring into your life are a reflection of who you are.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
So if they are here in your life, they're here for a reason. They're either here to show you something about you.
Absolutely.
To remind you, like they're your mirror, and you want to remember, not like we do this subconsciously, we don't even know. But it's amazing when we are aware and we start knowing and we start understanding, oh, why is this person, why am I bringing Rawan in my life now?
Yes.
I know why Rawan is in my life now. Rawan is in my life now because 1, 2, 3. And oh my God, she's my host, you know, because we have this connection and there is something in you that is reminding me of me.
Yes.
And I'm the same for you.
Exactly.
And anyone in your life or in my life or in your life, ask yourself this question: why or what is it that this person in my life has that is me? Like, how is this person reflecting me one way or another?
Yeah.
When we stop and think and really sit with it, like you said, just sit with things, sit with your emotions, sit with your thoughts, sit with your breath, because lots of people don't do that. That's how we started the session today.
Yes.
I just said, let's
Taking
just
a
take
few
a
deep
few deep breaths so that we can ground ourselves and really look into life from that angle and get out. And because also forgiveness is one of the reasons why, like the lack of it is one of the reasons why we always play the victim card. You know, it's always someone else's fault. It's always they are to blame. And that's why we always keep on finger pointing people instead of looking within and understanding, what is it that I have to do, that I have to do, that I should do for me first and foremost, to reflect a better version of my life in my life. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. You know, one of my teachers always used to say, my spiritual teachers, remember that when you're pointing your finger, one finger is pointing there, but three are pointing back at you.
Oh, wow. I love that.
So when you are being the victim and blaming others for a situation you find yourself in, remember, you have a big role to play in it.
Oh, yeah. You have the role. I mean, the biggest role. Because like I said, people don't just show up in your life. You bring them one way or another.
Yes.
You bring them.
Yes.
You ask them to be part of your life because they're supposed to be here to teach you something.
Absolutely.
The person and the experience that the person brings with them, just not just them, you know. So they bring, I don't know, heartache, they bring anger, they bring resentment. It's for you to go through this and evolve.
Absolutely.
I like to say evolve because that's what you do. You evolve with life.
Very
Unless you are someone who does not know or is not accepting of the fact that to move forward, you have to let go of the past.
Yes.
And to move forward, you have to actually be able to live in the present moment, because many people think, and this is one major reason why people are always afraid. It's that fear of what's going to happen tomorrow, fear of the unknown, fear of, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. And then I'm anxious all the time because I don't know what's coming next.
And therefore, I need to protect myself all the time.
Yeah.
I need to feel safe.
Exactly. And everything that's happened to me in the past is very bad, is horrifying, is horrible, and I live as the victim all my life. It's because of them. It's because of blah blah blah. And my life is a series of, I am series of past experiences that I'm stuck in, that I don't get out of. And one of the ways to get out of your past experiences, especially if they have hurt you, is forgiveness, right?
Yeah. And, you know, you spoke earlier about living in the present moment. The reality is you cannot live in the present moment if you are unable to forgive.
Oh, I love that.
Because if you don't forgive, it's like carrying a weight that is either pulling you back into the past or constantly making you worry about the future. When you forgive, you're actually letting go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And forgiveness, I love that you also related it to like living the moment, and also related it to the future, because we think that forgiveness is going to affect only the now, and is going to affect us from only thinking about the past. But it's also, why do we worry about the future anyway? We worry about the future because we connect the future to the past.
Yeah.
We always, like, the present moment is most of the time unexisting. It's like we jump from the past, reflecting it into our future, and that's why we have this fear. What if my future is going to be the same as my past?
Exactly.
This is most of the time the question that we ask ourselves, instead of reflecting into the future a moment where we are completely forgiven, completely forgiving, and completely and honestly grateful. Because
Yes.
also, once we have that forgiveness, this is when we feel the gratitude of everything that we've been through. If we don't forgive, like for me, I can tell you from my own experience, if I hadn't forgiven my mom, and if I hadn't asked for her forgiveness and received it, I would be still thinking that there are things that I still need. There are still things that I have to still acquire to feel satisfied in my life. But now I feel this gratitude for being able to go through this process, whether it was painful or not. It doesn't matter, because
Yeah.
that's my learning process. You know, some people learn without having to go through pain. And I love that, and it's something that we can also as coaches highlight to people, that, you know, they can go through life without having to go through a lot of pains and hurt if they just remember where they have been hurt before and learned the lessons.
Yes.
Right? For me, if I go through a heartbreak, let's say in a relationship, in a love relationship, right? I do it once, I do it twice, and I do it 3 times. I've done it a lot. And then I came to a point where I sat with myself and said, okay, what's the common denominator in here? The common denominator is me.
Yeah.
So the problem is really not these people who come
Yeah.
into my life. It's me. I'm the one creating this. So I'm the one who should uncreate it, or create something else,
New.
or create something new, create something
Yes.
that works better for me, right?
Yeah.
What did you
Absolutely.
create for yourself?
What did I create for myself?
Just as like a story.
Yeah.
I want you actually to tell people about the silent retreat that you went to, because you didn't tell me
I didn't
about
tell
it
you.
yet.
We never got to talk about it.
But
right?
now I have the chance. Tell me how that, for example, because I always like giving my audience some tips of the things that they can do before they even have to come to us as coaches and, you know, as people who can help them. Maybe things that they can do on their own.
Yes.
Right? So I like to give tips as to where they can go, what's the direction that they can go to. Maybe the silent retreat is one of them. I don't know. Maybe it's not the
Yeah.
right thing, but
But I'm happy to talk about it.
Tell me.
And let me connect it maybe to the lessons you learn.
Yeah.
And when you said you get to a place where you're grateful, and gratitude comes from a place where you can actually look at these lessons learned and you start counting your blessings. I look at the lessons that have happened in my life and any pain that I have gone through as a blessing, because it wouldn't have helped me to get to where I am today.
Amazing.
And when I went on the silent retreat, it was actually part of a 2-year trauma healing program that I was on. And I had had many retreats that were leading up to this 8-day silent retreat.
Wow.
Where we were just in meditation, silent. We're not allowed to speak for a full 8 days. And I can tell you it was a challenge, because to slow down and get to a place where silence is a refuge. And it becomes really a place of healing, and a place where you are really just sitting with your thoughts, with yourself, and layers just start to get peeled off, and you get to deeper places into yourself without making an effort. All you're doing is just slowing down and sitting in silence. And we used to do rounds of sitting meditation and walking meditation. So we would sit for 40 minutes, walk for 20 minutes, sit for 40 minutes, have a break for 20 minutes, then come back and sit for 40 minutes. And it would go through the night. And because it was a meditation hall and we needed to keep the meditation going 24 hours, there were people who volunteered to go and stay in the hall overnight and continue the meditation practice while others slept.
Wow. You took shifts.
It took me 3 days to be able to slow down my walk.
Okay. So even you were walking fast.
Even I was walking fast and I couldn't slow down my walk no matter how hard I tried. I would look at my teacher who is walking amongst us and I would go, how on earth can anyone walk this slowly? And then day after day, until the third day, I was able to walk more slowly. And the moment I slowed down, I just broke down in tears.
Wow.
And I remember I couldn't walk anymore. I saw a corner of the room. I sat down and I just burst into tears. And I was crying for probably a full 30 minutes. And there are always assistants that you can go to and process what you're going through, of course, because it's a trauma healing journey. So whatever shows up is information. And when you process it, you can get to a better place. And it was something that I hadn't been in touch with for a very long time that is connected to my childhood.
Wow.
And my realization was very much connected to my resilience and why I work so hard. I am very resilient. Anyone who would describe me would say Rawan is very resilient. And it's a strength that I've carried for many years and that I was really proud of.
Aren't we all? Like the Lebanese people specifically?
Exactly, because we've been through war, etc. I hadn't realized that this resilience and this working hard and this ability to just, whenever I fall, to just get up and stand on my feet again is actually a trauma structure.
I feel
a
like
response to having lived through war and knowing that, you know what, in order to survive, I need to keep going.
Yeah.
I cannot stop. I cannot pause.
I love that you mentioned that, because when we do healing sessions with people, when we do especially trauma healing sessions, we always go to the childhood. And I've noticed many of my clients, not many of my clients, I think all of everyone, anything that you learn in life, whether it's positive or negative, is a result of an experience that you go through. Whatever it is, right?
Sure.
I mean, our experience, we've been fortunate enough to be in a country that's always been at war still until today. And it's very, like, I laugh at it because for me, it is that resilience that not just you and me, like the whole Lebanese people, they are all like that. They are all resilient, and because that's the only way they can survive. Otherwise, they will just disappear, right? And I've noticed with my clients, whether we're talking about resilience or anything else, there's always this experience in their childhood that they don't remember, that they have zero clue about, that has formulated their whole personality and their whole life just because it happened. And what they did in that very specific moment was mainly to save themselves.
Absolutely.
It's for safety reasons. We do it to feel safe, right? We create something in that very specific moment. I don't know what the moment is, whatever that moment is, we create something. That something most of the time to keep us safe is a block.
Very true.
Right? And then when we move past and we grow older, that block is still there. We always forget to look back at it and like, release it before we move. And when we do our sessions, I'm sure you have the same outcome, that most of the time when people go back to that moment, they realize that they have created something to save themselves from something bad. And that moment created very positive traits in them as well.
Yes.
Not just the bad. And what we try to do here is we try to release them from the bad, and we try to keep the good with them that they have learned, because that's how we learn, right?
Yes.
But what we try to do is we try to make sure that their learnings, the bad ones, like, okay, I learned them, now I can let go of them. I don't have to keep them with me, to keep them bringing me down, because that's what they will do, right? They will keep us it's like
It's like
magnet,
yeah.
right? It's pulling you down all the time. Like every time you want to go, if it's still there, it's still gonna pull you down. No matter how good you get, no matter how much positive attributes you've created from this very specific moment, if you don't really regulate the negatives of that moment, allow them to surface, allow them to be recognized, and allow them to be let go of. That's one of that, like this journey of letting go starts here. And you want to let go the things that you've learned as a child from those traumatic experiences.
Yeah, yeah.
And first and foremost, again, forgive yourself for that very specific moment that you created that block for you. Does that make sense?
It brings us back to what we were saying earlier. Because I didn't know better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to remember that, I know we're calling them negative and bad, but they were actually great lessons.
Lessons.
You know?
Lessons. Let's call them lessons. Yeah.
And they highlighted the strength. So the trauma response becomes a strength. Today, some of the most successful CEOs are actually people who, as children, had to step up because they lost a parent or something was happening in the family dynamic and they needed to become the parent.
Yeah.
To parent their own mother and father or to parent their younger siblings.
You're giving me chills.
And I've seen this with so many of the CEOs I've worked with. And to remember, if we bring this back to the forgiveness point, if I can forgive myself, then remembering that the person in front of me who has hurt me so badly is someone who is hurting themselves. Probably because of an early trauma experience that they were not able to process or still until today don't see the need to process. And we have to accept that people are different stages in their journey.
Of course.
And we can't pull them anywhere. We have to meet them where they are.
Yeah. And I always say the same thing. Everything happens in its divine timing.
Absolutely.
In our own journey or in other people's journeys. And also, something very important, people will never change unless they want to.
Absolutely.
Unless they get to their own divine timing, right? So when we talk, and this is why I'm actually really doing this podcast, just to highlight some things, because a lot of, like, I was there, I didn't know better. Nobody showed me. Nobody told me, hey, you can go past through this and you can live a better life if you just take a breath and just sit and reflect, And that's how my journey started, when I decided to sit and reflect. And it was such an amazing journey so far. And I always try to, with this podcast, with having you here, with having all my other guests with me, is just to highlight that it doesn't have to be a scary journey. It's actually a very enlightening journey, Learning more about oneself is for me, is such a fascination, like understanding what got me or how I got myself here today, because nobody got me here. I got myself here.
Yes.
You got yourself here,
True.
right? So going into that space and wanting to understand, because I want better things for myself in my life. We don't go there because we want to punish ourselves. Okay, I want to make it clear to you guys. Going into this journey is not a punishment. It's actually a beautiful reward to everything that we go through in life.
Yeah.
Do you see it in a different way before we close, or?
No, it's just replacing fear and apprehension with curiosity and adventure.
Yeah. I feel if we go back in this vessel at this age, and if we look at things from a child's perspective, I feel this will help us a lot. This is a tip for you guys. If you really want to start this journey, I feel like if you put yourself in a place where you go back to, I don't know, your age of 5 and 6 and look at your life now from that angle and see how, as a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, how you would look at it.
Yeah.
With curiosity, with attention, with wanting to understand
Playfulness.
and playfulness.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Look, it's happening in every episode because the topic is really very nice and there's
And we
no
lose
limit.
ourselves in it. Absolutely.
And there's no limit. And I'm saying there's definitely going to be season 3 of I Am series, because every time I sit with any of my guests, I tell them we're going to have a sequel for this episode. And I think this is going to happen for this one as well. Rawan, thank you so much for your time with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come over and have this episode with me. Is there anything else that you would like to leave our guests or our audience with?
Yeah, I just want to say, if you're watching this, it's because you are somewhere on your journey and you are ready to receive it, the information that we just shared. And we're talking about forgiveness. We're talking about feeling pain on the journey, learning lessons. But at the same time, remember that if you are going through a painful experience right now, just stay with it. We're not discounting it in any way.
Yeah.
Any place you are on your journey is a great place to be. Just be present to it and ask yourself, how is it serving me?
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And guys, remember, follow us on Instagram, I Am Series platform. And this episode is also available. I mean, you're watching me probably on YouTube, Rawan and myself. And this will be also on Anghami, on Spotify, and on Apple Podcast. And one more. Anghami, Spotify, Apple Podcast. I don't know. YouTube is the one more, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. So please follow us, and I hope to see you again in the next episode. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rawan.
Bye, everyone.